Welcome back, my dear learners, to the P4 class English. It's your friend, Viola. I think now most of you know me, and I'm regular now on your eyes. I'm usual. I'm not new, as most of you were saying. So, since we have been looking at verbs, and I've been talking about some things that most of you were asking now, simple past, what is that? Simple past participle, what is that? Yes. So after looking at the verbs, we come to another part of English, and this part now is tenses. Yes. Now someone will ask, what is a tense? A tense we shall say, a tense is changing of a verb according to time. Yes. Tense in actual senses is time. Yes, in time, you can say we have the present time, we have the past time, and then we have the future time. In actual senses, a tense is time. So, since we have been looking at verbs, and we are going to see how these verbs now change according to time. That is a tense. So we say there are three main blocks of tenses. Yes, we have three main. There are three main blocks of tenses. And the first one is the present tense. Yes, the tense which is happening, or the tense which takes place every day in P2 or in P1. I know that teachers said this tense and they called it everyday tense. Then we have the past tense. And in your P2, P1, your teacher said this one is the yesterday tense. And then we have the future tense. In P2, P1, your teachers must have said these ones is a tomorrow tense. So present tense is every day, past tense is yesterday, then future tense is tomorrow. So these are the three blocks. When they ask how many blocks of tenses do we have three. We have the present, the past, and the future. So when we continue, today we are going to look at each block. But not today we are going to look at all the blocks each by each, but we shall be looking at each block as it follows. So today we are looking at the present tense. The present tense, when your sister, your baby sister asks you, you tell that baby sister of yours that the present tense is the everyday tense. So when we ask, we say this tense has other four sub-categories. I think most of you now here, we are going to start knowing what I've been talking about. The present tense has other four categories. The first category is the simple present tense. We have the present continuous tense, the present perfect tense, and then the present perfect continuous tense. But in most cases at our level, we are not babies, but we are not still grown-ups. We are in the middle. So we may look at the simple present, we look at the present continuous, and then we look at the present perfect tense. Even this one, I'll talk about it, but briefly. I'll talk about it briefly so that I don't confuse you. But when will I talk about this? I'll talk about this when we are handling the present perfect tense. Then I'll be chipping in so that when you reach your P5, P6, you don't get confused. All this one doesn't sound very new to you. So today we are looking at the present tense, and here we are looking at this category, this subcategory one by one. And here we come with the simple present tense. We say this tense is used for an action that is done regularly, every day, weekly, monthly, yearly, and daily. This tense here, you see, We use it for actions. Remember we said an action word is a verb. That means we use it with the verbs that we do regularly, every day, weekly, monthly, yearly, and daily. We use the simple present tense. And so we say, this tense still is used with the statements that are always true. When we're talking about a statement that is always true and doesn't change, we use the simple present tense. Here I came up with some examples. Examples of these statements, the statements that are always true. For example, I said, the moon goes around the earth. That means that statement is true. The moon will always rotate around the earth. That statement cannot change. Since it is always true, it is expressed in the simple present tense. I came up with another one. When you uproot a plant, it dries. When you uproot a plant, you remove a plant from the ground and you put it there. What will happen? It will dry. So we say, since this statement is true, we are using the verb. This verb here in the simple present tense. Another statement you say, when you die, you rot. When someone dies, that person rots. It is still true. When you die, you have to rot whether you want, whether you don't want. Whether you are the president, whether you are the king, whether you are the firstborn, whether you are the lastborn, the moment you die, what will happen? You rot. So that statement is also true. So it is expressed in the simple present tense. We said, remember, it is used with those statements that happen every day. When you go to school every day, you say, I go to school every day. She runs to the well every day. Yes. I eat food daily. Yes. I do my homework weekly. These statements here, when we are looking about these ones here, we are expressing the sentences in the simple present tense. Yeah, we continue and say, in this tense, we have the adverbs commonly used in this tense. In this tense, we have adverbs. And these adverbs, whenever you find these adverbs in a sentence, that means that sentence is a simple present tense. And these adverbs are, we have usually, we have always, we have seldom, we have often, sometimes, we have generally, rarely, occasionally. This is a statement. Whenever you find these adverbs in the sentence, it is always a present or a simple present tense. So when we're using these ones here, we use them with a simple present tense. We can read them again. Usually, always, seldom, often, sometimes, generally, rarely. They are adverbs that are used in the simple present tense. Yeah. So, we come to the pronouns. Now, we are looking at how these verbs change in the simple present tense. So, we are saying pronouns in singular form take s, es, or ies. And I try to simplify our work. And I said, when we are looking at verbs and we are using these singular pronouns and nouns, for example, she, he, it, Musa, Jane. When you reach some level, they'll tell you these are persons. They'll tell you these are persons. And now in English, we call this one the third person. So I may say, verbs when used with third persons, singular, they take s, They take es for those verbs that end with o. For example, goes, do, it will go for does. It will take still es for those verbs that end in s, h. For example, brush, it will go for brushes. For example, wash, it will go for washes. For example, watch, it will go for watches. Yes, those verbs that end in s. Still we have those verbs that end in ss. For example, pass, we shall say passes. You know you have these verbs. That's why here I have not bothered myself to bring the verbs back to you, because we have the verbs and the list. So here I just explain, and you will have to go back and revisit the verbs, and you know which verbs I'm talking about. Yeah, we come to these ones that end, that where we add IES. Those verbs. Remember we are saying we are adding this with the third person. This one is the third person. In English, we call this one, the one you are talking about. She goes to school every day. He eats food daily. It runs around the compound every day. Musa goes to church every Sunday. Jane marries every year. That means when she marries this year, she will divorce, and even the next year, she will marry. Now, I was talking about this one where we add IES on which category of verbs? We are saying those verbs that end in Y. Verbs that end in Y. For example, hurry, dirty, worry, bury, dry, cry, hurry. Very many of them. We drop Y, we add IES in the third person. So those are the verbs. And when we come to this side, we are looking at now the first person and the second person. Verbs that add, that remain, we are saying, when we talk about I, you, we, they, plural nouns, verbs are used in infinitive form. Yes, so those verbs, in most cases we shall say, verbs when used with the first person. Verbs when used with the first person. For example, I, we don't add anything. We use it in the infinitive. For example, I eat, I run, I read, I sit, I stand. That is the first person when you're talking about yourself. Then we still, when these verbs are used with this second person here, you. You is the second person. You eat, you cry, you sit, you stand. Yes, those verbs, when used with this, they remain in the infinitive form. Then we have we. We is the first person plural. When we come to the plural pronouns and plural nouns, they all take the verbs that are used in infinitive form. We is the first person plural. Second person plural still is you. Third person plural is they. So when we come to plural pronouns, we all take verbs in the infinitive form. So I think today I've talked much, and you have to learn that we are handling now tenses, and when I set an activity, I will mix according to what I have taught. I will have to mix the activity, and then we shall handle it next time. Thank you very much for listening to me. Stay safe. Love you so much.